On this AR, we have a collapsible stock. We have an aftermarket grip that gives us more surface area and has a storage compartment in it. But we haven't done anything to the forend. So that, of course, is 25% of our contact with the firearm. We're going to have our primary hand and our secondary hand, our body, and our cheek. That secondary hand, we want to be as comfortable as possible, and we also want to have a way of consistently interacting with that foregrip. So we may have a hand that comes back here and we actually feel the collar. We may have a hand up here and we're somewhere around where the sling attaches, or we may just grab somewhere in the middle and know that we're not touching anything, and that's our point of consistency. Now, this is not the first generation triangular grip, but it is the perfectly round grip that most of us learned how to shoot ARs with, and it's very common still to this day. If we think about changing that, we're going to want to think about why we want to change it. If you aren't interacting with it consistently, or maybe you don't feel like it's large enough for your hand, of course, there was a modification to this with the M4 series where we went to an oval, to a larger one. There's also aftermarket foregrips available that are a little bit larger, give you a little bit more surface area to put your hand on, and give you some flares towards the back that allow you to feel that with your thumb or your pinky as you grab it. Now, some people don't use the foregrip at all. Some people prefer to come up and use the magwell and put back pressure on the magwell for their front hand. That's certainly a viable option. It's been done quite a bit, and it's been done for a long time. Some people really do prefer that. This also will put your hand back closer to your body, so you're not as likely to get fatigued when you're way out here. And one of the other things that's happened recently is it's become very popular to have that hand all the way out here because of the lessons from competitive shooting. Wrapping the thumb over the top, allowing you to control the muzzle much more precisely if you have to transition very quickly on a target that's moving, or maybe multiple targets that are in your field of view. Of course, that's more of a military or a hunting situation, not as much of a defensive situation, and certainly not as much of a situation where you're going to be inside your home. But if you prefer to have that type of grip, you may want to look at some other aftermarket additions. Now, the fact is, aftermarket additions is another great reason to change the forend, to go to something like this rail. If you go to the rail, then you can, of course, mount your lights, mount different types of sights, mount optics, maybe mount a foregrip or something out here, a vertical foregrip or even an angled foregrip, also on the end of your firearm. But that doesn't mean that you have to go to rails in order to be able to add things like the vertical foregrip or even a light solution. We're going to take a look now at how we can modify this particular traditional style foregrip using this rail attachment system so that we can put something on there. Maybe it's going to be a light, maybe it's going to be a vertical grip. It's going to be a relatively easy modification. Although I will say that it can be difficult, maybe a little tricky, to remove the foregrip because of the tension that this collar is under. We don't want this popping off in the middle of a fight, so this is a very secure area here. And there's a couple different ways you can go about trying to open it up. I'm going to close this stock down. Now, as I get ready to do this particular modification, I realize that I've got hard plastic on a hard surface on this table. I'm just going to reach back here, get this pad, put it down, create a little bit more friction for me so that I can actually be in a situation where this pad isn't going to move and I'm actually much more stable with the particular rifle on this particular table. You're going to want to push down on this collar as much as you can. Sometimes using something like the screwdriver to create a little extra leverage is what's going to be necessary to get down in here and actually get behind that so that we can pop this cover off and expose the opportunity to place the rifle down and attach this rail. Now, this particular set comes with different length screws. Some of your guards, when you pull them off, your foregrips are going to have these heat shield guards. Some aren't. If you have the heat shields, you're obviously going to need the longer screws. So we can line this up with the holes, put that through there, come in with one of these braces, the back end, which we can see here. I'm going to start that. We'll get another one of these longer screws because this is the heat shield forend. Attach that. And you're going to want to make sure that you can attach at least 2 of these screws, of course, so that your rail attachment doesn't twist. And we can see on this particular forend, because there's a lot of variations here, I'm only going to be able to attach 2 of the screws through there. The third hole doesn't line up. Again, this is not an optimal solution, putting this metal rail on a plastic forend. if I was really serious about attaching a lot of different things to this, especially anything that was going to have a lot of weight or that was going to incur a lot of stress, like a vertical foregrip, probably wouldn't want to use this particular rail with this particular forend. But for the application that I have in mind, this should work just fine. So we're going to reinsert this into the front. We're going to pull down on the collar, and again, I'm going to use the flathead screwdriver to get a little leverage to pull that down. You're going to find it's usually easier to get one side in and then transfer over to the other side. Smack that down, make sure it's seated. And in this case, now I've got a rail that, while it's not incredibly strong and maybe not what I want to put something like this vertical foregrip on, I am going to be able to take and mount something like a white light. Now, this particular light, of course, is originally designed to be used with a pistol and slip on the attachment area on a railed pistol, but I can simply attach it on there, and now I've taken a traditional AR, I've put on a rail mount on my forend and given me the opportunity to be able to have a white light. Of course, this white light also has, if I go one switch over, a laser, or I can go another switch over and actually get into a situation where I have the laser and the white light both on at the same time. Now, here's something to think about. If you're going to spend the time, effort, energy to do the training to use a device like this, if you're going to spend the money to have a device like this, you may not want to go with the incredibly inexpensive and not as strong or secure solution of putting this small rail up on top of this traditional handguard. You may want to go right to a railed upper. And in fact, that's probably going to be what most people do if they really want to be serious about modifying and accessorizing their AR. When it comes to the upper with the carry handle and the traditional grips, you really are limited at a certain point. So thinking about switching to a railed gun, thinking about switching to a flat top, and being able to use at least other options for the forend that are going to give you more rail space, more sturdy rails, and of course more accuracy inherently, because with a free-floated tube, a tube that doesn't connect to the actual barrel out here at the front, you're going to have better rifle harmonics. In other words, the barrel harmonics, the barrel is going to be able to move freely inside of the foregrip and allow you to get more consistent hits in a precision situation. Now, in your home defense scenario, that's probably not going to be an issue, but if you do decide to practice, get into competition, or you want to shoot the AR at further distances, you're going to want as much accuracy as possible out of this system. The foregrip is a really important part of thinking about how to modify your AR. Moving up to the rails, probably what you're going to want to do as soon as you start thinking about any kind of foregrip, vertical, angled, or lights, or lasers, or even a lot of optical solutions.